had been drained of blood, or as if my veins no longer existed. I wanted to believe that my eyes were somehow wrong. They weren't. For a few seconds, I just sat there and grasped my hands in each other, trying to feel the skin upon skin. Instead, I felt nothing. It was as if my skin was useless. It was as if there was nothing pulsing beneath. Then, suddenly, I had a mental image of peeling off my skin. In my mind, it seemed easy to do. I started at my cuticles, slowly peeling my skin down from my knuckles, up my arms, off my collarbones, and then down my breasts, stomach, and legs. I was just muscles, tendons, and nerves. I could feel everything. I could take this image of myself, standing completely skinned, my heart beating openly. I could feel each beat resonate throughout my entire body. I could see the blood move through my veins. I almost felt myself wanting this, as if my skin wasn't enough. It didn't allow me to feel everything I wanted to feel. It became a useless organ. After a few minutes, I shook myself away from this image. I looked around the room, and almost immediately I saw you. Again, I was drawn into myself, this time having an image of you and me. In this image, I had my skin again. I was standing before you completely naked, yet completely unexposed. Suddenly, you took me by the hips, looked me in the eye, and started peeling off my skin. You peeled me open from my navel, kissing the skin as you peeled, as if you were marking the trail before treading upon it. Then, after a few minutes, all of my skin was gone again, laid upon the ground next to us in one large pile. I looked at you for a moment, and then you started taking off your clothes. You were looking at me the whole time. After your clothes were off, I took a step towards you. I grasped your hair within my hands and began to run my fingers through it. I could feel it in a way I wasn't able to before. You simply closed your eyes while I did so, until you suddenly took my hands in yours and placed them upon your ribs. I then started peeling your skin off too, slowly at first, until you looked at me urgently and helped me start to peel. After your skin was gone, we just stood there, staring at one another. Finally, I brought myself back to reality, but as I looked at you, I couldn't shake this image from my mind. I still can't. It wasn't a fantasy, but it nearly felt like one. Even now, all I want is to feel bare, touched, and naked in a way I never have before. I have the urge to be ripped apart in the most literal sense, so deeply that I can see my own heart beating in my chest. I want my lips to feel raw. I want my skin to feel like a wound. I want my muscles to ache. I no longer want this brain. I just want bodies, fingers, lips, and stomachs. I want every part of me to feel touch, and for my skin to feel as if it has purpose again. Because even now, even a few days later, I can still see that grayness when I look down at my hands. And when I see you, I can picture you ripping me open again, tearing apart my limbs and putting me back together again. Part 2. In the woods, there is an abandoned body. It is just a few yards from the main trail. It is a girl. She is lying in the snow quietly. No one has found her. Her skin is pale, even paler than the snow beneath her. She is nearly translucent, so much so that the snow seems to act as camouflage. Her hair is curly and red. It is matted with snow, and strands of it are iced to her lips, lips that are chapped and blue. They are slightly parted, as if her last breath were slowly disentangled from her throat by the cold air. She no longer has a voice. She is silent. Her lips utter nothing, merely stuck in the formation of her last breath. She no longer has thoughts for her lips to speak of. Forced into permanent hibernation, her brain no longer works either, rendering all of her thoughts useless. Her eyes are green, eyelashes coated in ice. They are permanently fixed towards the sky. Though they are open, they see nothing. They know nothing of sight, just as her lungs know nothing about air. Her body no longer knows how to do anything. Her veins can no longer contemplate the feeling of warm blood. Her hands no longer have the ability to touch. Her feet have lost the ability to walk. It is as if her brain has become a mute, saying nothing to the rest of her body. It cannot speak. It no longer has a voice. And now, just as her body is buried in the snow, her life is along with it. She ceased to exist more quickly than the snow can melt. Only the cold air interacts with her body now, slowly freezing her into a cadaver. She is now an anonymous vessel, one that can never be used again. Lying in the snow, she no longer has a name. Instead, she only has a collection of parts that no longer work. She feels nothing. She says nothing. She does nothing. She has been there for 3 days, and no one has found her. Part 3. I can feel your breath on my neck. It is the only thing I can pay attention to. I can't feel my heart beating. I can't feel your hair between my fingers. I can only only feel a thick, moist heat on my neck as you exhale. It sinks into my skin, migrating towards the back of my neck in waves. My body is engulfed in this heat. I can feel within me and emanating from me. Soon, I feel your lips on my skin, trailing down from my ears into my collarbone. My eyes close. I arch my neck, opening myself to you. The heat finally takes over me. The distance between each of your breaths begins to feel more prolonged than the last. During that one moment, my whole body aches with cold. In a few moments, this won't be enough. Finally, your lips reach mine. We kiss without thinking. At this moment, there is no thought worth having. I begin to clutch your hair more tightly, and your body moves closer to mine. All barriers broken now, our hands are allowed to unleash themselves onto one another. Now all there is feeling. We touch each other hungrily, as if our fingers were going to tear into each other's skin. Our bodies push and pull themselves to and from each other, our hearts beating frantically in opposition. I can feel myself begin to sweat. I can feel my shirt stick to my skin as you begin to rip it off. We quicken. Soon, all of our clothes are gone. I can feel my skin stick to yours. We become completely entangled, as if we're sharing one body and one skin. My hands now move with a new purpose. I can feel them move to every part of you. I have no control over what happens anymore. Our bodies act on their own. Our brains no longer work. In this moment, they are useless. There is only movement. We never pause, and we are never still. We move closer into one another every second. There is only this. Part 4. There is nothing now. Her body cannot even be moved. It sinks in the snow, the weight of her compressing it beneath her. Each day, she has been brought closer and closer to the earth. Her back will soon rest upon the frozen ground, and the snow will consume her. Everything within her body is frozen now, the cold slowly taking over every part of her. The blood in her veins no longer waits for resuscitation and purpose. Instead, it has betrayed her. It has solidified. Her organs have frozen as well. If you cut her open from her collarbones and down to her navel, you could rip each out with ease. If you reached into her chest, you could pull out her heart with no resistance. As you tugged, her veins would merely release their grip and shatter. If you dropped her heart, it would shatter in the same way. It has been a week, and no one has found her. Part 5. It has been a week since our encounter. Pausing ourselves for a moment, we take a walk in the woods. It is beautiful outside, yet cold. After walking for about 20 minutes, I see something a few yards off the trail. It is a body. She is a girl. Oh my God, I say to you. You pause conversation for a moment, allowing us to walk over to her. I can hear the wind shaking the branches in the trees surrounding us. They clash and collide quietly. Nothing else makes a sound. Nothing else moves. I wonder how long she's been here, you finally say to me. You're barely speaking louder than a whisper. Now I pause. I don't say anything for a few minutes. I merely look at her body. It's just laying in the snow, only 2 feet from me. I keep expecting her to blink and see her suddenly disappear, but every time I open my eyes, she's still there. I keep looking at her, but no matter how hard I try, I still can't understand what I'm seeing. I can't wrap my mind around how blue her skin is. I can't even imagine how cold she must be. I keep willing her body to move, trying to make none of this real. Instead, she stays completely frozen. I can't call an ambulance to help her. There is nothing I can do. I don't know, I finally respond. She must have been here for a long time. Look at her skin, Noah. I'm barely speaking louder than a whisper now, too. Oh my God, you repeat. Oh my God, I repeat. As you call the police, I continue to stand there and watch her. I know that she will not move, yet I feel the need to protect her. I don't know why, but the thought of leaving her alone scares me. I don't want to stop looking at her. She has been unseen for long enough. You hang up the phone and walk over to me. They'll be here in 10 minutes, you say. We resume silence for a few seconds. I wonder what happened to her, I ask, knowing that you don't have an answer. I wish I knew, you reply. You take my hand. Your touch sets fire to my skin, and I squeeze it to intensify the feeling. For even though everything that surrounds us may be dead, the heat of your skin reminds me that my body still works. The light tap of your pulse reminds me that I can still feel. It reminds me that my mind is still my own. As I grasp your hand, I feel everything. As I grasp your hand, I remember that I'm alive. My body works, my mind thinks, my heart beats, my lungs breathe. We begin to breathe in syncopation without thinking, just waiting for them to arrive. We never once let go of each other's hands. Our bodies work, our minds think, our hearts beat, our lungs breathe. We are alive.